Good morning. Good morning on this wonderful Tuesday. The last Tuesday before the last Tuesday before Christmas. So the time is flying by. The days are feel like they're on hyper speed. And I'm praying that you have taken care of the things you need to take care of. I'm praying that your home is filled with peace and with the presence of God. And So I'm feeling that way. I'm feeling that way. And so I am so glad that Jesus is on the throne. So I see people are tuning in. I appreciate you all giving me some time on your Tuesday morning. I know people have things that they can do, and I appreciate the fact that you give me some time. As always, I want to encourage you to share our live stream with family or friends. Let them know what's taking place. Today, I want to talk on the issue. Uh, Maybe it's perspective, but just uh, learning how to live with a kingdom perspective. I want you to say that kingdom perspective. I have a kingdom perspective, and when you learn to live with a kingdom perspective, when trials, tribulations, challenges come upon your life, it can keep you focused. It will be an anchor for you, that you will not stay down. You will, if there's been some kind of tragedy, you will recover. You will be intentional about it, because you recognize your purpose, your calling is greater than things that take place in the earth and what's taking place in your life. Kingdom perspective. And so you have to recognize too that you are important to God's plan. Um, and so I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about that. It's been an interesting season of time with people that are connected to my life, and sometimes even as a shepherd, when things are happening to your people, it affects you in different ways. And I started processing. Sometimes you have to step back. You have to step back and get a different look. And you go back to your values. You go back to the anchors that maybe God has given you a word. God has revealed your calling, your grace on your life. And I want to tell you, all of those things stabilize us. All of those things stabilize us, and it keeps us from going too far off on the other side. And so I want to kind of put some of these things together. So I want to start with just a definition. Perspective. Perspective is defined as a particular attitude. I like that. A particular attitude, a point of view, a particular attitude towards or way of regarding something, uh, a point of view. I like that. It's a point of view, perspective. And it looks like as we continue to grow and as we mature, perspective becomes more important in our lives, how we look at certain things and how we process certain things. And so, perspective, a particular attitude toward or a way of regarding something, a point of view. Those are the things that what I'm talking about is when you have a kingdom perspective, even if something shakes you, you still come back. Maybe there's some things that you go through for a season, but you come back. You don't give up. You don't start cursing God and all of those kinds of things, because you are living with a kingdom perspective. And so I just want to give you a couple of thoughts right now. So, number one, when we're living with a kingdom perspective, we do not let circumstances dictate our days. that circumstances do not dictate our days. Hmm. There'll be things that'll come over, they'll come up, there'll be things we'll have to navigate. But we are not going to allow certain circumstances to affect how we move forward. So, this issue of perspective. So, do not let circumstances dictate your day. Number two, we must be intentional about having purpose for each day. We must be intentional. We only have so many days that have been given to us for the Lord. And so we must be intentional about having purpose for each day. That is part of the reason, we start in a place of prayer our days, or we end our nights with a place of prayer, that we begin to have focus for the upcoming day. All right. So we have to also, these are some of the things I want us to get inside of us, because these things will stabilize us. What we do has eternal value. What we do has eternal value. I also want to say who we are, it carries eternal value. And when we begin to lose sight of that, we downplay it, then all of a sudden it begins to take us off course, and it will affect different generations. When I'm thinking about Naomi, after her sons have died, her husband has died, and she says, "Don't call me Naomi anymore. Call me Mara, because I am bitter." And what she is doing is she is not recognizing that her life carries eternal value. And maybe you all are going through certain things, and there are challenges that are going on in your life. And I want to remind you, that you were in the will of God, in the heart of God, before you breathed your first breath. And so God has purpose, and don't ever look down on yourself. So that means we have to have the ability. What perspective helps us to do is seeing beyond. I want you to say that. I have to see beyond. And I know I've probably said this before, but we have to see beyond. Seeing beyond the moment. We have to see beyond just this present moment. There's an interesting challenge in that when we start talking about seeing beyond the moment, that there is something that has happened. There's something you have to deal with, but you are saying this is not going to consume me, because I have to see beyond it, that I still have some things that God's called me to do. But even so, when I say there's a challenge with that about seeing beyond the moment, we also have to have the ability to discern a moment, to discern a moment. And I think part of that thought is kind of what even led me to this today. On our Sunday service, we had a different kind of anointing. It was like, you could feel the presence of God, and there was a level of weightiness, but it was not a loud presence. And so we had to pause and seize the moment. What does God want to do in this? So the ability to see beyond this present struggle, that this is not going to last. So we have to see beyond this present struggle. When I'm talking about this thing, that means all of a sudden you can't just let go of certain things, where sometimes people they're going through a season, they're going through a challenge, and they lay down some of the things that form our character. They go and they get another person in a relationship, or they start drinking, or they do whatever. We have to have the ability to see beyond this present struggle. Number three, we have to see beyond this present condition in the earth, or in my life. That there are some things that they are present right now, but I have to be able to see beyond it. Because if we don't have the ability to see beyond that, we're going to begin to make some decisions and we're going to begin to make some choices. And so, no matter what's going on in the earth, we still recognize that God has a plan. And then, number four, we have to see beyond the temporary. We have to see beyond the temporary and see the eternal. The eternal, the temporary, and the eternal. And I want to tell you, when I started talking about this, sometimes you got to step back when you're in the middle of the moment. When I talked about seeing beyond, the other thing is I want to say is we have to recognize. I'm sorry about that. We have to recognize. We have to recognize certain things. We have to recognize the power of this moment. And that's what I was talking about on Sunday. We have to recognize the power of this moment, that I have to seize this moment. The children of Israel, they did not recognize a moment when God was sending them into the promised land. And they did not recognize this moment, that their choices in that moment will determine the next 40 years of their existence. So we have to see and we have to recognize the power of this moment. And that means sometimes we've got to be courageous. We've got to be someone who's willing to take a risk. This opportunity has come before me, and maybe I don't need to be silent. I need to say something. I need to do something. And then we have to recognize that there are certain opportunities that will not come back again. And I know we say that God is a God of a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance. And I believe that. But there are certain opportunities. They are in a moment, and you've got to be willing to embrace that moment and move forward with it. All right. So that requires, in order us to have this thing of perspective, that means we learn how to incorporate the truth revealed from our past. I want that to sink in with you. Incorporating the truth revealed from our past. There are lessons that we have learned. We have that there are experiences that we have encountered. And with them, whether it felt like it was a failure, whether it felt like I missed the mark, I can still learn from this. I can learn from this. If anybody's been around me any length of time, I talk about the fact that there are issues that you don't experience, that is not successful. You need to be willing to do an autopsy. You need to be able to you begin to research it and you begin to probe inside of it. Why did this fail? Why didn't this work? And so this truth that comes to the surface, that's being revealed. I felt like I've had I don't know if God's helped me in this area, but I can walk through things, especially like with death. And I feel like I can have compassion. I have compassion. But I want to tell you, when my father died, that thing revealed grieving to me in such a personal way that I think it changed me about when people are grieving and all of those kinds of things. And so I'm incorporating the truth from my past. And so we need to learn from these things in our lives. All right. Just the other couple of thoughts, and then we're going to be done. We have to recognize the good that we do or what I begin can live beyond me. That's thinking with an eternal perspective. Apologize. So whatever I begin, it can live beyond me. And many times those are some of the things that keep us moving forward is we recognize huh, something that I am started, huh, I'm not going to finish it. I'm not going to finish it. Hmm? And that's with how we raise our children, the things that we give ourselves to, that it has the ability to live beyond us. Just I just put some thoughts together. So I don't know if you all are processing with me, but these are some notes I put out. We have to have the ability where we recognize what the evil that we are seeing, uh, the evil that we are seeing, if it is not addressed, it will bring greater destruction. And that comes into with this place of discernment. And I want to start on a personal level when we begin to recognize if I don't deal with this thing, it's going to bring greater destruction. That's what happens with parents. Parents begin to see something in their children. And they say, if I don't address this, if I don't deal with this, this is going to affect his life. It's going to affect so many things. So I've got to bring discipline. I've got to be strong and not heavy handed, where the Bible tells us not to provoke our children to wrath. But there are times you see something and you're saying, if I don't deal with this, this is going to bring greater destruction. It could be an issue on your job. It could be doing something in a relationship. And if I don't address this, greater destruction is going to come. All right. And with that, that means that we know that God is greater than every situation. So God has an answer for us. All right. So I told you I was going to close shortly, but I want to do some more things just about this issue about an eternal perspective. An eternal perspective. When I gave you the definition for perspective, a particular attitude towards or a way of regarding something, a point of view. So with that, couple of thoughts. So our perspective is how we perceive people, situations, ideas. Perspective is how we perceive, how we see certain things, situations. And if our perspective, if we've lost sight of it, there are some things that that you have gone through, positive or challenging, that you've gone through, and you begin to understand. If you were naive, that begins to change as you grow in maturity. But then there's also something that you begin to look at and you're saying, man, I really see things in a negative point of view. And so now that's how I look at people. That's how I process situations. And so perspective, if we are doing this through a kingdom perspective, so it's informed by, all of those things are informed by our personal experiences, which makes it as unique as anything that can be. It is informed by our personal experiences. And how do we, again, when you do this autopsy or you set back and you begin to process it, and sometimes you've got to be, I don't want to say sometimes, you really have to be brutally honest with yourself, not from a place of condemning, but also you said, man, I'm looking at this right now, and I could have done this and I could have done that. And so it begins to shape our perspective. Our perspective shapes our lives. It shapes our lives by affecting our choices, how we see things. And I'm telling you, the things that I saw years ago, I look at them from a different perspective right now because of a place of maturity, a place of experiences, those kinds of things where there's new information. But the minute our minds become shaped or steeped in worry, perspective goes out of the window. And I don't want to limit it to worry. Just when our minds become steeped in fear, when our minds get steeped in offense, if our minds are steeped in anger, perspective goes out of the window. And at that point in time, we are feeling something in our emotions. It's feeling something in our emotions, and it begins to change our perspective. Huh? Whether we feel like we have been attacked, whether we feel like we have suffered some kind of abuse from this situation. If we're not careful, we lose our perspective. And remember, the mind will justify whatever the heart desires. The mind will justify. And so you'll begin to find evidence that confirms what your emotions are. And it could be the fact that we have to mature in certain areas. We have to mature. I know that's been the case with me. I got to mature in this area. I got to get better. Huh? Maybe my motives were good, but my execution was not right. And so I can't find a way. I should not find a way to justify it. I've got to grab the truth out of it. Okay. So when that begins to happen, perspective goes out of the window. And so what happens? We begin to, for some people, they forget about their triumphs, their victories, and all they're doing is focusing on this present issue. We stop being optimistic as fear takes the wheel. So I like being around optimistic people. Sometimes it just trips me out. And I can just say, man, this is part of a gift from God. Maybe they have learned certain things. There are some people that I get around, they are optimistic. And at the same time, they are realistic. They're realistic, but they can see certain things that other people can't see in this certain area. Okay. So I want us to stay full of faith, and we're believing things are going to go well. And that means sometimes it just means we've got to make some simple adjustments and we'll see the fruitfulness. When we lose perspective, our operational wisdom is gone. I grabbed that phrase from someone. When we lose perspective, our operational wisdom is gone. We almost become like children. We become like children. And these emotions are going on in us. And words are coming out of us because our minds have been bombarded. It's been bombarded. And so there's some, again, when I talk about anchors, that I am important to the kingdom of God as long as I surrender to the will of God. That I am looking at things not from just the present, but I am looking at it from eternity. It is a kingdom perspective. And so what we don't want is when we begin to lose perspective and operational wisdom, everything we know about coping, adapting, resilience, they get lost. Small things appear to be much larger and more dire. I was, there are times that you have to learn some lessons from the standpoint of there are people I have encountered in my life, they live on a level 10. And what I mean by that is this: every issue is critical. Every issue is on a 10. When really certain things, it's like a 2. but they live in the place of a 10. I'm hoping you all are kind of grabbing what I'm talking about, that they put so much emphasis on everything that it's always on a 10. So it's almost like when you are talking to them, they're always, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, the volume level is high. And I'm not talking about the natural volume level, but how they see a thing. And they live on that 10. And so when they come around you, they got that 10 up, and it's like somebody has turned the volume up, and you can't even hear the music because of the volume. And so perspective affects that, because this is not that big a deal. This is not, we can handle this. We can conquer this. We can conquer this. When you start looking at that, oh boy, my time got away. My time got away. So I'm hoping, so I want to just close with one thought, and then I'm done. The Bible talks about we do not lose heart. We do not lose heart. And we recognize our outward man is perishing, but the inward man is being renewed. And therefore, we don't lose heart. And there's some things we may never have an answer for, can never have an answer for. But we need to still have the ability that we stay on the course. We stay on what the mission of the kingdom of God is. That we're going to keep something before us. We're going to keep things before us. We're going to keep that people need to be saved. We keep these things before us. There are things that are connected with the kingdom of God that we continue to press forward. And there will be some challenges, and there will be some adjustments in how we do certain things. I would encourage you, maybe write down what you believe God's assignment is for your life. And whenever you are going through certain situations, go back and look at that. And is this situation taking me off of the assignment of God? Is it taking me off of the assignment of God? And let it be an anchor that brings you back. You know, where a ship who is anchored, waves will come, but it does not move. And so there are values that we live with. There are callings and missions and assignments that they will sustain us when we are going through certain things. All right. Well, I'm praying you got something out of today, because it could have been I was probably all over the place. I like to be a little bit more organized. But Father, I am praying for my brothers and my sisters and myself, that the things that you have revealed to us and what you've called us to do, that we keep it before us. I pray, oh Lord, that you give us a kingdom perspective, a perspective that is connected with eternity, that we don't get consumed by the things that are present. Those things are temporary. Father, there are some folks right now, they're going through some challenges, and their world has been shaken. And I understand that. I understand that. But Lord, let there be an anchor that keeps them, that brings them back when storms come, when waves come. Let there be an anchor that keeps us stable. And the anchor is Jesus and what Jesus has called us to do. Well, appreciate your time on Tuesday morning. I almost didn't want to do it because I nose and different things, and I had to use tissue here. So it's been, but I appreciate you all giving me some grace. So, as always, I want to encourage you, take the things that we've talked about and bring them before the Lord, and the Lord will bring increase. And now go and take on the day. Bye bye.